Task Inspector is new in Project 2010. This feature scans your project for issues like tasks that start before their predecessors or a subtask that occurs after the summary task's finish date. Manually scheduled tasks are prone to schedule problems because Project doesn't calculate their dates. If their predecessors move, the manually scheduled tasks stick to their original dates. Red squiggly lines, like the ones for misspellings in Microsoft Word, show potential schedule problems in Project 2010. When you right-click a cell with a red squiggly line, you can choose a command to correct the problem, or open the Task Inspector to see what's going on and choose the corrective action you want to take. If you look at the Prepare Materials task, you see a red squiggly line on the finish date. The same thing goes for the Present to Management task. Scheduling problems that arise often start somewhere else in the project. Predecessors that are delayed, time that's unavailable in a resource's calendar, or date constraints are a few examples of items that can foul up a schedule. If you right-click a task, a few commands for correcting scheduling problems appear on the shortcut menu. Right-click Prepare Materials. The first command on the shortcut menu is Fix in Task Inspector. We'll look at that shortly. The second command is Respect Links. That's because this manually scheduled task isn't following its task link to the Prepare Management Presentation task. Keep in mind, using respect links on a manually scheduled task may temporarily correct a scheduling problem, but it might return if the predecessor task changes or is delayed. Choosing respect links moves the task so it now follows its predecessor. You can see that in the timescale. However, the red squiggly line doesn't go away, so there is actually another problem. Task Inspector can help identify problems with the Prepare Materials task. On the Task tab, click Inspect. You can also right-click the task and choose Fix in Task Inspector. The first section of the Task Inspector lists problems with the task. In this case, there are a couple of them. The resources are assigned in non-working time, and the task finishes after its summary. The second section of the Task Inspector shows different repair options. And if you scroll down, you can also see factors that affect the scheduling of the task. In this case, the manually scheduled setting is the most important. The Repair section lists several repair options. Extending the summary task will correct the problem that Project sees, but it isn't really what you want because the management meeting is going to occur on December 17th, regardless. The other repair options would correct the problem of resources working during non-working time, but because the management meeting is fixed, these repairs actually won't work either. This just goes to show the Task Inspector isn't infallible. However, just to see how repairs would work, you can click Reschedule Task to move the task to when the resources are available. You can see that the task finish date moves out, but the Task Inspector still shows several problems. In this case, because the repair didn't fix the problem, go up to the Quick Access toolbar and click Undo. And before we move on, let's scroll up so that we can see the summary task. The factors that appear in the Task Inspector pane may change as you modify the schedule. For example, click Extend Summary. You can see that the summary task now expands to include the task dates for all of the tasks below it. And the repair options change. Sometimes you want to ignore problems. Maybe you get a resource to agree to work extra hours, so you want to ignore a resource over allocation. The Present to Management task has a red squiggly line, but it's scheduled on the right day, so you decide to hide the squiggly line for the problem. Right-click the task and choose Ignore Problems for this task. Project hides the line. If you decide to review problems you've ignored, on the Task tab, click the Inspect down arrow and choose Show Ignored Problems. The red squiggly line is back. The Present to Management task has a problem because the Prepare Materials predecessor finishes later. It turns out that the real problem with the management meeting is that the Relo PM and assistant have to start working on the presentation sooner. The task link between the Draft the Budget and Prepare Management presentation makes sense, but it doesn't get the presentation done in time. In an earlier movie, you learned how to modify resource assignments, for example, to increase the units that the Relo PM and assistant work on tasks. It turns out that's the real solution to getting this presentation done in time. Project identifies problems or potential improvements to your schedule with red and green squiggly lines. You can right-click a task to choose commands that can fix the problem, or you can open the Task Inspector to dig a little deeper and choose a repair option that makes the most sense. But sometimes the problems go beyond what Task Inspector can handle, and you have to come up with your own solutions, like modifying resource assignments or adjusting task dependencies.